Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome back. It's Mia, and today we are discussing the 10th and final episode of House of the Dragon Season 1. And you may be wondering, hey Mia, how did you get this video up so quick? And if the episode came out at night, why are you recording in the daytime? And I would just tell you to stop asking so many questions. Let's get into the discussion. So, how do I feel about this finale? And excuse me, my voice has just been all over the place. I have been definitely under the weather since I last talked to y'all. But nonetheless, this episode, I liked it, but it comes with a caveat, and I hate to say it because I was enjoying it, and literally I'm like, oh my God, Rhaenyra is about to go sicko mode, and then I type, that's it. Like right when they cut to credits, right when she turns around, and you're like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? And well, you're just gonna have to wait 2 years to find out what happens next. I think just overall my biggest gripe, if I could say it's a gripe, is just the fact that, okay, last week we had a very greens heavy episode. Like I like that form of storytelling where we really only get one side of the story. And so for me, I was like, okay, I was expecting based on the preview for us to get a little more of the black side of the story. But I also thought that maybe they would kind of jump into the war a little more quickly, or jump into, starting to fight back. There's a lot of planning in this episode and a lot of strategery going on. So I was like, okay, you could say it made the episode slow or less appealing. I found it interesting. I just wish that maybe this was like the penultimate episode, as to where like maybe next week we would come together one more time and have things be a little bit more balanced when it comes to the goings on between the greens and the blacks. Because now it's like we're going to have to wait so long to find out what's going on with Alicent and Otto. And on one end, you can be like, yeah, what's 1 week compared to 2 years difference between both those episodes? But I don't know. I would either do that, like have an extra episode where they all come together, or I would have actually rearranged things maybe so that the crowning of Aegon was a little bit more of a kind of like that dramatic moment that you ended on, like, oh my God, he's really being crowned king. This isn't happening. Like Rhaenyra was supposed to be the queen. How could we get to this? I thought maybe that was going to be like the most climactic and dramatic moment. So saving that instead for Lucerys's death and then Rhaenyra's reaction, I do think that's an interesting way to end this story on the episode. But as the finale as a whole, I don't know, it just kind of left me wanting more. And I guess that's good, but also I don't know, I'm on the fence. I think another part of that is maybe this one loose end. I don't know if you guys felt this way as well, but just the fact that, okay, Rhaenyra gave 2 missions to her kids, right, or a mission each, right? Lucerys goes to the south, he goes to Storm's End, and then Jacaerys goes to the north, and he goes to Winterfell, and he's gonna talk to some cousins and something, so we go to see Lucerys and Storm's End. I was like, wow, this ends horribly for him. I wasn't expecting them to cut to Rhaenyra so quickly, because I thought then we were going to see a parallel of maybe something that happens to Jacaerys in Winterfell or in the north. And I think specifically it's because I kind of just really wanted to see Winterfell, just as a little bit of like fan service. I wish they could have done that for us, but it kind of feels really like an open-ended kind of thing. Like, oh, we were told there's gonna be 2, things to do. We saw one, but I just would have liked to have seen the other brother go out and do his diplomacy. Now going back to Lucerys, who a little baby, I'm so not like in a mean way. He's just such a sweet child, and I like during that scene I was kind of on the edge of my seat because he is so young, and you're like, oh my God, you're sitting him out here, and he is trying to do his best to be cordial and going up against Vaemon, and so I did not see his death coming at all. I thought he was, for the most part, going to be able to make it out alive up until, the very end. And it's like, he ain't making this out alive. But another thing that I was surprised about was the fact that Daemon looked guilty for what he did. And so it looked genuine. I was like, I put in my notes, did Daemon really feel guilty for, it was kind of like accidentally killing Lucerys, because what I think was going on here, if we go back to the lore, is Vhagar, which I believe is the dragon that he took. It's a very old dragon. don't know what she's doing. And so from what it seems like, maybe she kind of took the lead and, you know, is going back to her conquering days and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, let's just eat the kids. So I think maybe he really just wanted an eye for an eye, literally. So I think he wanted to intimidate Lucerys, but he didn't want to go all the way and straight up kill the kid. So I think that speaks to his character a lot, is that killing his nephew really wasn't on the menu, but actions have consequences. So I wonder, I hate that we're not going to get to know the payoff for that until season 2. And even then there might be some kind of time skip or something where it's kind of like I won't even get resolution to knowing his true feelings. So I'm kind of bummed about that, but in 2 years, I don't know, remind me. And then not only that, but I was just thinking about Rhaenyra, like when she was giving her children this mission, I was like, but should I really be going alone? You know, I didn't necessarily think either of them were going to be killed, but I was like, it's still very dangerous for them to be going out there. And, you know, basically everything is heating up and Rhaenys is like, the Greens are going to want you guys dead. And so I'm like, with all that in mind, and Daemon is out here, you know, with his battle plan, you're going to send your children out there, you know, with nothing but the sword at their side and a dragon, which, I mean, maybe, yeah, the dragon is enough, but I still think they should have gone with some sort of cover, because I'm like, even Otto, when he went up to the bridge at Dragonstone, they might not have had dragons with them, but he still came with his guard. So I think the children should have had some guards. I do blame Rhaenyra on that one. I'm sorry. Should have known better, or just should have sent someone who weren't your own children, or wait till they matured. But it is what it is. So, right, we have this whole thing going on where we just see Rhaenyra snap, right? Like I said, she looks like she's about to go straight up sicko mode on them, and it sucks that we won't get to see it, but you can just feel the heat radiating off of her. And despite how it's like, oh my gosh, she's really about to go off, it also is bittersweet, because with this act of Lucerys dying, you're like, well, now any animosity that Alicent and Rhaenyra shared, you know, at that previous night back at the castle, all that is gone. And specifically, I think it shows a change in Rhaenyra's character, because for the most part, she was very diplomatic and she was very kind about her actions. She wasn't very hot-headed or, you know, anything like that. But it's kind of like we've seen all of these things break her in the span of a day. Like, first her father dies, and then she learns that Aegon has been crowned instead of her, and then she goes through this terribly painful birth and loses the baby at the same time, delivers it herself, and then mummifies the baby herself. Did everything. It shows that, you know, her strength. And then on top of that, her middle child dies, you know, because of an order that she gave him, basically. So you can see how all that piles up, and it's like, you know, whatever kindness that she had is about to be thrown out the window. I don't blame her. And again, I've said with her and Daemon together, they're going to be a formidable force. So I can only imagine what's going to be happening in season 2. Now, unfortunately, it just can't be Rhaenyra and Daemon against the whole entire world. I'm sure they could, you know, handle a couple of people here and there, but they need allies, right? She is wanting to be queen. Well, she crowned herself queen. She's like, look, I am, right? Speaking it to existence, but they still need allies, right? That's how that works. And Rhaenyra was a little bit overconfident about what, or rather who or which families would be siding with her. And we saw, like, with the Baratheons at Storm, then, like, the Greens came with a marriage proposal. You know, they've got these terms, and he's like, so what can you offer me, little prince? And he's like, oopsies, I didn't come prepared for that. Don't you hate when that happens when you don't come prepared? So it makes me wonder, are they going to have to start offering terms to other people who swore oaths to Rhaenyra? Because as the Baratheon said, he's like, well, you know, that oath means nothing. Now, listen, we're making a deal here, so what can you offer me? But I actually was surprised to see, I was like, as I live and breathe, Corlys is back, is alive as well. That man should be in the grave next to Viserys. But what surprised me was the fact that he did side with Rhaenyra. And like I said, Rhaenys, both of those two surprised me, because again, they should have every reason to be against Rhaenys and Daemon, or Rhaenyra and Daemon, But, I guess perhaps Corlys admired her strength, or I don't know. Let me know why you thought, unless he said it explicitly, but why you think Corlys sided with Rhaenyra after all of the devastation. But when he said that the Hightowers committed treason, I was like, oh, he's really about to be Team Black. So I am happy because they have that advantage at least. And also, they've got a leg up because Corlys is the sea snake. He's got this battalion of ships at his beck and call. And not only that, he was like, oh, hey, by the way, while I was fighting for my life back at the Stepstones, we won. Like, you did? So they've got that victory too. Because now they can control the sea. They can control these pathways and these shipping routes or whatever goes on in the sea. And so he was proposing a plan basically like, hey, we can just surround King's Landing, cut them off, and, we've got them. And Daemon's like, we've got too many dragons to count, so they pretty much have the advantage. Or do they? So just ending on that episode, it would appear that, the Blacks have a pretty big advantage. I would just say, I guess on the green side, some people want tradition. They would just vie for Aegon being king because he's the male heir and all that stuff versus, a lot of people were feeling funny about Rhaenyra when she was named the heir in the first place. So now that there is a male king, they're like, oh, so we can just go back to feeling the way that we originally felt. We don't have to hold a grudge against Rhaenyra. But it's like, do the Hightowers have the power to go against the ships and the dragons? And perhaps they have lots and lots of army men at King's Landing, so I think that would be their one advantage. So I'm just excited to see how this plays out in season 2. We're gonna get I'm sure some really tragic, off the wall, crazy stuff going on. Just pure Game of Thronery going on, and I'm really looking forward to that. So some final questions that I had, for like what comes next. So on the green side, here's what I'm interested in seeing is seeing what or how Aegon develops as the king, and specifically, like, is he gonna find his voice? Is he really going to step into the role and maybe even surprise some people simply because maybe he's acting for himself and then making some decisions that maybe they don't want him to do, but he's going to do it anyway. And then with Alicent and Otto, I'm wondering, are those two, because we saw last week they had a split amongst themselves. Even though they wanted the same thing, they wanted Aegon to be king, they were still kind of like on two different sides. I'm wondering, if they will still continue to have some contention among themselves, or will they be on the same page? And then how will Alicent use Lyris? That's her ace in the hole, and I hate it, but I love it. And then for the Blacks, my questions are, will Rhaenyra have any authority as queen? Because she named herself queen. She's like, by all means, I should be. So I wonder, will anyone abide by her even though she's not at King's Landing? And then how well will the Sea Snakes plan go? Because I talked about it. It seems, pretty much like a good plan, but will it be too good to be true or a little bit too easy? And I'm wondering, like what we saw at Storms, and will the Blacks have to step it up a bit? Like, is their honor and their word not enough? Will they need to start making offers and peace treaties in order to get people on their side? And I was wondering this as well, since we spent a whole episode on Driftmark and the Driftwood Throne, is now that Lucerys is dead, is there going to be any contention around who gets the Driftwood Throne? Simply because they're like, we went through all this just for him to die? Like, it's so insensitive, but that's the game that they're playing here. So I think that is all that I have to say. As you can see, I had a fun time dissecting this episode. I think they put a lot on the table. There's a lot to leave to the imagination. So as much as I say, like, it wasn't a great finale, it still was to me a great episode. So I'm interested in knowing, what are your thoughts about the finale? Did they nail this episode? Did they nail it as a season finale? And if there are any other questions I asked during this, just drop it in the chat, and I look forward to getting back to you. So yeah, I will leave it here. Please be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this discussion. Coming up next, I think I will go back to finishing reviewing Andor. I like the previous 2 episodes that I saw, so I might do some more of that, and I'm going to do some more, you know, day-to-day commentary now that I'm back at home, and hopefully once I start feeling better, because I just had no energy to make videos this past week. I apologize. But this was really fun. I really enjoyed reviewing House of the Dragon. I was a Game of Thrones fan. I was never a stan, but this has just been so exciting, and this series helped me to cross over 300 subscribers, so it's just been a blast getting to discover and talk through this with you guys. And I'm running late for something, so maybe I should go. So thank you so much, guys. Again, be sure to leave a comment, be sure to subscribe for more discussions like these, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye.